Yes, folks, good morning and welcome to yet another live. We are all in the land of the living, and I'm sure we should be enough to celebrate a new day, celebrate a life in the land of the living. Of course, this is Take Election Seriously on ninth edition. In today's ninth edition of Take Election Seriously, you're invited to join me as together we take a look at things in general and reiterate some serious points surrounding democracy as we ready ourselves for the polls. To date, we really don't know when elections are going to be. We have no clue. But be that as it may, a date is not as important as the preparation for the date. So this date for general election has not yet been announced, but we can hear threats of ringing the bell from the incumbent, while the regular demands from elements and several vested operatives of the main opposition, National Democratic Congress, the NDC, are made for them to indeed ring the bell and put the nation at ease with all the spirited discussions and name-calling, not to mention the mudslinging. Now, as we all ready ourselves, we must take one thing into consideration and allow that to fuel us into meaningful participation. Meaningful participation, folks. Since you cannot get what you were not looking for, you need to put your mind to it and seriously evaluate the programmed intentions of both political parties and otherwise the individuals offering themselves for public office, and make meaningful choices that would contribute finally to a society that is free from fear, where all our constitutional rights would be guaranteed. Remember, lots of people died for this right that we have today, which many of us seem to take for granted. Do not lower your standards to meet any selfish cravings that you may personally have. Lift your standards, and while you're at it, lift your consciousness so that you can select the group with the best plan, the best programs to take our nation forward. Paulo Coelho reminds us that a mistake made more than once is a decision. Stop being your worst enemy by voting against your best interest. Some say we know what we have and we don't know what we might be getting. This oftentimes is a weak cop-out to settle for the same old rubbish. Change is the only constant, and at times we need to exercise our right to change in order to experience something new with all its trimmings and trappings. To remain in the same position is to become stagnant as still water in a pond. And you and I know what happens to still water. It starts to stink before it slowly dries up on account of the elements of the atmosphere. As I would always say, if you want to keep on getting what you're getting, all you've got to do is to just keep on doing what you're doing. If you don't like what you're getting, just stop doing what you're doing and do something else. Insanity is described as doing the same thing over and over again and again, but you expect a different outcome. The incumbent bases its campaign on the slogan, tried, tested, and delivering. They didn't tell you delivering what. While the main opposition, National Democratic Congress, NDC, bases its campaign on the slogan, moving forward with the NDC. Too many of us go to the polls on election day and give limited meaning to democracy. Democracy is not just one man, one vote every 5 years. It involves people's active participation in the way they are governed throughout the tenure of those who were given the privilege and honor to govern on behalf of the majority. And that is why democracy presupposes its participants are intelligent, in that they will not be swayed by gifts of wood to repair their little house, the construction of roadways and drains, which are the responsibility of the government, $20 in a t-shirt, and other forms of bribe for votes. Going to the polls every 5 years and then crawling back into a shell and not holding those elected to account for their stewardship while in office is as much a sin as not voting. It results naturally in those elected running amok, behaving as if they own the place, and gives absolutely no account for their stewardship because the people continue to abrogate their responsibility to themselves in contributing to and building a healthy democracy. We all have to remain vigilant in order to guard our freedoms as enshrined in our Constitution. Those sacred rights and freedoms are as follows: the right to life, freedom from slavery and forced labor of any kind, the right to personal liberty, freedom from inhuman treatment of any kind, freedom from deprivation and from poverty, freedom from arbitrary search or entry, freedom of conscience, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly and association, freedom of movement, freedom from fear and want. Now, if we want to guarantee our freedoms, we must remain vigilant. None shall be satisfied to vote every 5 years alone and consider that democracy. That's a sham. Hence the reason why someone like me continue with my vigilance, regardless of the reactions of those who are guilty of what I say in the highly annoying manner that I employ to say what I say as often as I have my say. My freedom is guaranteed by the Constitution, regardless of how hard the current members of authorities in Grenada attempt to deprive me from making a living in the place of my birth. It is our right to share in the economic, social, and political, civil, and cultural rights of our people, and we must see to it that conditions are created for us to enjoy equally in these rights. We need to ensure that each elected group of people work on behalf of all the people and not just those who supported them at the polls. If we hold these truths dearly to our hearts, we will remain ever vigilant, recognizing that the price of meaningful freedom is eternal vigilance. I know that, and I invite you, especially our youth, to know this too. I trust that you are not one to say, "It's a good thing I doesn't vote," for fear that you end up with the same old visionless crew, which can take you nowhere in a hurry and reintroduce you to the electricity load shedding as in the 70s and the 80s. So when the time comes, take elections seriously. Your vote is a vote to put Grenada on track with integrity, law, and order. Take care. Please share this particular live so that people can get to understand their rights. People can understand the need to take elections seriously so that we can end this nightmare once and for all.